In this video, I'll show you how I work with ChatGPT in make.com and why I mostly use assistants instead of chat completions. At Pickup, we've been focusing on quality and process optimization for over 40 years. With automated processes, you relieve your company of routine tasks, have much less manual work, and can focus more on your core business and value creation. If you want to know more, just book a call with me. You'll find the link below in the description. I'll quickly show the chat completions again here with a different example. I'm creating a new scenario, and when I select ChatGPT here and use chat completion, I have, as usual, my connection to chat to OpenAI. You're probably familiar with this. When I click on add here, I have to enter my API key and my organization ID, and then I can choose the method here. Chat completion is the only sensible option here. Then I can select the model, for example, GPT-4o, and then here in the messages, I can specify the system message where I basically assign it a role. It even says so here, right? Role. And then I can create a second message where I say, and what is it that I actually want from you? And write the prompt here. Max tokens is always set to 0. That way the model's own limit is used. Yeah, and that's something I use very rarely because what bothers me here is that I have all this configuration. So the role and the prompt and so on, it's all in here. And if I want to use it multiple times, I always have to search for which scenario contains that particular entry with the prompt I might need right now. And that's why I primarily use assistants, because I can configure and manage them much more effectively. But there's also another reason why assistants have a big advantage. So let's go back to our demo system here. That means I have here a ChatGPT component, specifically message and assistant. And when I open it, we can see here the connection to OpenAI. We then see that based on this connection, I can select the desired assistant I want to work with. And I'll show you in a moment where they come from. It takes a little while for them to load because I have quite a lot of them. Yeah, and you can see that here I also use a kind of nomenclature so that I can easily recognize them again. The role is usually always user because I don't want to overwrite it. And then I usually have a very, very short message here. So I could even leave out this part of the prompt because all the intelligence is built into the assistant itself. So now I pass this idea for a blog post to it. And if a focus keyword exists, I also provide the focus keyword. And all of this comes from this Airtable. These are exactly the 2 cells that I want to pass to the assistant here. Well, and not much more is really done here. That means when it starts running, it sends this information to the assistant. And now let's take a look at how things work with the assistants. First, I need an account on platform.openai.com. I have to log in there. And then we see here, in this drop-down menu, we see projects. That means I can create multiple projects here, for example, the default project. And if I don't do much there, of course, that's sufficient. But as you can already see here in my test environment, I already have about 6 projects, and that allows me to better organize all the content. And if I want to create such a project, I click on Create Project and give it a name. I'll call this one Make Demo Content for Make. Then here you also need to provide a web address. You actually have to enter that as well. And when I create this project, it will then appear in my project list here. And now I can start creating assistants within it. To do that, I click on Create here, and then I have the assistant here and can configure it. But I'll show you that with an existing example. What we still need now to establish the connection to Make is an API key That means I click on API keys here and then click on create new secret key. Then I give it make demo, I give it a name, and select the project here as well. Logically, I'm currently in make demo, and then I create the secret key. And this key it's only displayed here once. That means I have to copy it now and actually use it later when connecting with make. I'll delete it afterwards. So that means you won't be able to use it anyway. But the connection to make doesn't just need the key itself. It also requires the so-called organization ID. And I get the organization ID when I click on this gear icon here. There are the organization settings here where the name is displayed, and also this organization ID, which is also a key that I need to use. Yes, and with that, we've basically set up a project. But now let's move on to the topic of assistance. Click here on the dashboard, select a project, and in this specific example, we have the project Rock. And there, we'll switch over again. We have the assistant there, marketing right blog post. And as you can see, I always include a date here as well, so I can do a bit of versioning, because managing the assistants here really isn't all that great, but well, you just have to hope they'll improve it soon. Write blog post, here it is, that's the one. And in fact, they are actually identified by this ID here. Yes, which I then, it's unique, of course. So what other options do I have here now? Well, first of all, here in the instructions, I can enter the prompt, obviously, yes. And in this case, the prompt is extremely extensive. Why? For two different reasons. First of all, I want to give the system a very, very strong sense of individualization, making sure that it truly understands and reflects the unique characteristics of each user. In other words, the way it should write needs to be not just different, but truly one of a kind and tailored specifically to each individual. This uniqueness in writing style is essential to achieving a personalized experience. And that's why, for example, I have a section here where I say behavior and constraints, definition of a good response, and so on. That means I simply have a detailed description here. I also have an example here of how I want it to write. So it should use this example as a guide. Yes, then I write this prompt. And what you can see very specifically up here as an example is that under task, I have your task is to use the topic from the user and write a very long blog article. That means basically it should use what I pass to it here in make as the basis. And what I also have written here is read the files in your knowledge base, find segments relevant for the topic, incorporate them in the blog post. And that refers to this area here. In this area, I have actually created a knowledge base. And you can find this knowledge base here on the left under storage. It contains documents with specific knowledge from this company. So for example, imagine you've written a book, you can put it in there. Imagine you have specific product descriptions and so on. And these are all things that ChatGPT probably doesn't know. And if you put them into such a knowledge base here, you can use them directly. Yes, and I select the model here in exactly the same way. And down here, I can also configure things a bit more. That means I can still adjust the temperature and also this topic. And for the response format, I can also use JSON here if I need it. So how does it work here with storage? I'll click on storage on the left here. And then, as you can see, I can upload documents, create so-called vector stores, and add these documents to the vector stores. This vector store also has an ID, and I then enter this ID accordingly for my assistant. You see, this here is exactly that vector ID. When I go to the configuration section here, I can actually either add it directly right here in this place or refer to this particular vector store for further use. So that's a major difference compared to the regular chat completion, that I can configure these assistants here in much more detail And yes, what sets our content marketing machine apart is that it is customizable. That means if you have specific knowledge, this assistant will be tailored specifically for you. And it doesn't just say, ChatGPT, write a blog post, but instead your specific prompt is used. What I also did is, so it's specific, but for example, this function here, clean up text, is an assistant that does nothing other than take this text and clean it up according to certain criteria, like removing footnotes and things like that. But I actually didn't customize that particular one myself at all. It's actually in a project called Tools, because basically I have all the different assistants in here that I use for various things that really don't need to be customized in any special way or manner. And that's why for this specific component here, I actually have the other connection set up here, just as you can see. Yeah, and that way I'm actually pretty well organized because I always know, okay, this is a general function. So I select the tool connection and so on. I have another version of this here with create meta info. With this assistant, I actually want to get two answers. Specifically, I want to have the meta title and the meta description, which I need for SEO. And I also have an assistant for that, to whom I again provide the results. But the crucial part is actually pretty far down here, where I specify that the response format should be a JSON object. That means I don't get the answer as normal text, but as a JSON object, which I can then break down into its two components using this parse JSON, and then I can write it into the Airtable afterwards. How does that work with the assistant? For that, we need to look at the tool here, parsing meta information. It's all the way at the bottom. No, here it is. What are we doing here? Here we have another task, we have a prompt, and then at the end we say, write the result into the following JSON object. And then you simply provide this as an example here, meta title, meta description. And then it knows that its results, the ones it generates, should be placed into these two quotation marks here. And when configuring the assistant, I set the response format to JSON object instead of text. If I don't do that, I'll get an error message anyway when this assistant is executed. What else do we have here? I think we also have a DALL callback there. Exactly. That's the component generate an image where I can select the DALL model and simply pass it a prompt to get my corresponding result. Yeah, I think those are the most important points to consider when using ChatGPT in Make. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like. Please subscribe to my channel. And of course, I'm also happy to read your comments. Have fun with it. See you next time. Bye.